Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Titan and looked out at the massive space station ahead. The station was bigger than any city on Earth. It spun slowly in space, catching the light from 3 different suns. This was the home of the Galactic Council, and today humanity would meet the galaxy for the first time. Jake had trained for this moment his whole life. He wore his best uniform, and his crew had polished every surface of their ship until it gleamed. The USS Titan was humanity's pride and joy. It was 2 kilometers long and packed with the best technology Earth could build. Jake thought it was beautiful. He hoped the aliens would think so too. Lieutenant Amy Carter stood beside him, looking nervous. She had studied alien languages and cultures for years. Her job was to help Jake understand the strange beings they were about to meet. She had read every report and watched every video transmission from the deep space probes. But reading about aliens was very different from meeting them face to face. "Captain, we're getting a signal from the station," said Communications Officer Tim Hayes. "They're telling us where to dock." Jake nodded. "Take us in slowly. I want to make a good first impression." The USS Titan moved toward the docking bay. Jake could see other ships around the station. Some looked like giant crystals that sparkled in the starlight. Others were dark and curved like the shells of huge insects. There were ships that looked like they were made of water, and ships covered in spines and thorns. Each one was different, but they all had one thing in common. They were all much bigger than the Titan. The docking process took an hour. Jake used the time to review his speech one more time. He had practiced it hundreds of times, but he still felt nervous. This was the most important day in human history. If things went well, humanity would join the galactic community. They would have access to new technologies, new worlds, and new friends among the stars. When the docking was complete, Jake led his team off the ship. The station's halls were enormous. The ceiling was so high that Jake couldn't see the top. The walls were covered in strange symbols that glowed with soft light. The air smelled like flowers and metal, and something else Jake couldn't identify. Other beings walked through the halls. Jake tried not to stare, but it was hard. There were creatures that looked like walking crystals, each one taller than a basketball. Player. Their bodies caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. There were insect-like beings with too many arms and compound eyes that reflected everything around them. Some creatures floated in bubbles of water, their tentacles moving in slow patterns. Amy whispered to Jake as they walked. The crystal beings are called the Velthari. They're one of the oldest races in the galaxy. The insect ones are the Hive. They work together like ants or bees. The water creatures are the Medani. They're supposed to be very wise. Jake nodded, trying to remember everything. There were so many different species, and each one had its own customs and rules. He hoped he wouldn't accidentally insult anyone. They reached the council chamber after a long walk. The room was huge, with seats arranged in circles that went up and up like a sports stadium. Hundreds of different beings sat in the seats, all looking down at a small platform in the center. That platform was where Jake would have to stand and speak for all of humanity. And voice spoke from hidden speakers. The words were translated into English by the station's computers. The human delegation will now present themselves to the Galactic Council. Jake walked to the center platform. His footsteps echoed in the huge room. He could feel thousands of alien eyes watching him. Some of those eyes were compound like an insect's. Others glowed with their own light. Some were so alien that Jake couldn't tell if they were eyes at all. He cleared his throat and began to speak. Honored members of the Galactic Council, I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing the United Earth Defense Force and all of humanity. We come before you today seeking membership in the galactic community. We offer our friendship, our knowledge, and our commitment to peace among the stars. For a moment, there was silence. Then something strange happened. The aliens began to make noises. The crystal beings rang like bells. The insect creatures clicked and buzzed. The water beings gurgled and bubbled. It took Jake a moment to realize what was happening. They were laughing at him. A tall crystal being stood up. Her body pulsed with colors that seemed to show amusement. When she spoke, her voice was like music played on glass chimes. Human Captain Morrison, we thank you for your charming presentation. Tell us, what exactly does your species have to offer the galaxy? Jake felt his confidence slip, but he pressed on. We have explored our entire solar system. We have built cities in space and on other worlds. We have technology that allows us to travel between the stars. We have art, music, literature, and science. We have a strong military that can defend our allies and protect the innocent. The crystal being's colors shifted to what looked like barely contained laughter. You control one star system. 1. The Velthari Empire controls 10,000 star systems. Your largest warship is 2 kilometers long. Our smallest patrol craft is larger than that. You speak of traveling between the stars, but it takes your ships months to cross the distances our vessels cross in days. An insect being stood up. Her compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like 1,000 tiny mirrors. The hive has watched your species for some time, little mammals. You are ... quaint. Your ships are slow, your weapons are primitive, and your understanding of the galaxy is limited. What makes you think you belong among the stars? Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. This wasn't going at all like he had hoped. We may be new to galactic civilization, but we learn quickly. We adapt. We never give up when faced with challenges. These qualities have served us well, and we believe they can serve the galaxy well too. A floating water creature rippled in what might have been amusement. Every new species says the same thing, Captain Morrison. They all believe they are special. They all think their determination and spirit will make the difference. But the galaxy is vast and dangerous. It is ruled by those with the power to enforce their will. What power does humanity possess? The question hung in the air. Jake looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien beings. He saw technology that humanity couldn't hope to match. He saw ships outside the station that could destroy entire worlds. He saw creatures that had been traveling the stars since before humans learned to make fire. We have the power of hope, Jake said finally. We have the power of dreams. We have the power to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. The laughter was louder this time. It echoed through the chamber like a wave. Even the translator systems seemed to struggle with the variety of alien amusement. The crystal being spoke again. Hope and dreams. How ... touching. The Galactic Council has reached a decision. Humanity will be granted observer status. You may watch our proceedings and learn about galactic civilization. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when you have something more substantial to offer than hope and dreams, we will reconsider your application for membership. Observer status. Jake knew what that meant. It was a polite way of saying that humanity wasn't good enough to sit at the adult table. They could watch and learn, but they had no voice in galactic affairs. They had no rights beyond their own solar system. They were cosmic children, and the adults were patting them on the head and sending them to play in the corner. The ceremony was over. Jake and his team were escorted back to their ship by beings who no longer bothered to hide their amusement. As they walked through the station's halls, Jake heard the sounds of alien laughter following them. Amy walked beside him, her face red with embarrassment. Captain, I'm sorry. I thought we were ready for this. I thought they would see our potential. Jake put a hand on her shoulder. It's not your fault, Amy. We came here with the best intentions, but we're clearly not what they expected. As the USS Titan undocked from the station and turned toward home. Jake stood on the bridge and watched the alien ships around them. Each one was a reminder of how small and insignificant humanity was in the vast galaxy. They had come seeking friendship and found only condescension. They had offered partnership and been given a pat on the head. But as Jake looked out at the stars, he felt something growing inside him. It wasn't despair or defeat. It was determination. The galaxy had laughed at humanity today, but Jake had a feeling that the laughter wouldn't last forever. Humanity had been underestimated before, and it had never ended well for those who did. The underestimating dot, the long journey back to Earth, would give Jake plenty of time to think about what came next. The galaxy might have dismissed humanity as harmless primitives, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that being underestimated was a weakness. Jake smiled as the station disappeared behind them. Sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. Commander Lisa Brooks floated in the observation deck of the UCS Horizon, watching the stars through the reinforced windows. 6 months had passed since humanity's embarrassing first meeting with the Galactic Council. Now Lisa and her crew had the job of watching the galaxy and learning how things really worked out here among the stars. The Horizon was built for watching and listening. It was smaller than the USS Titan, but it was packed with sensors and communication equipment. Lisa's job was to spy on the galaxy and report back to Earth. What she had learned so far made her stomach turn. Lieutenant Sam Davis floated up beside her, carrying a data tablet. His face was grim, which had become his usual expression over the past few months. "Commander, we just received another transmission from the Zarian system. The Velthari are making an example of them." Lisa took the tablet and read the report. The people of Zarian 7 had refused to pay tribute to the Velthari Empire. They had declared themselves independent and asked the Galactic Council for protection. The Council had ignored them. Now the Velthari were showing the galaxy what happened to those who defied their rule. "Are you getting visual confirmation?" Lisa asked. Sam nodded toward the main display screen. "Coming through now." The screen flickered to life, showing a view of the Zarian system from one of their long-range probes. Lisa watched in horror as massive crystal ships moved through space, like floating cities. Each ship was the size of Manhattan, bristling with weapons that glowed with deadly energy. As Lisa watched, one of the crystal ships fired at Zarian 7's largest moon. The beam of energy was so bright it hurt to look at, even through the filtered display. When the light faded, the moon was gone. In its place was a cloud of glowing debris that slowly spread out through space. "They destroyed an entire moon," whispered communications specialist Kelly Barnes. She had been monitoring the transmissions from Zarian 7. There were mining stations on that moon, families, children. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them and continued watching. This was her job. She had to witness this horror so that Earth would know what they were really dealing with. The crystal ships moved closer to Zarian 7. The planet's defense fleet rushed out to meet them. Lisa counted 50 ships in the defense fleet. They were good ships, armed with nuclear weapons and energy cannons. Against most enemies, they would have been formidable. Against the Velthari, they might as well have been throwing rocks. The crystal ships didn't even slow down. Beams of energy reached out and touched the defending ships. Each touch was enough to vaporize a vessel completely. In less than 10 minutes, the entire defense fleet was gone. 50 ships and their crews had been erased from existence as easily as someone might swat flies. Dr. Helen Murphy, the Horizon science officer, was taking measurements of the weapons being used. "Commander, the energy output from those weapons is incredible. Each beam contains more power than our largest fusion reactors produce in a year, and they're firing dozens of beams at once." Lisa nodded grimly. "What else have you learned about their technology?" Helen pulled up another display. The crystal ships themselves seem to be grown rather than built. They're made of some kind of living crystal that can repair itself. The energy for their weapons comes from artificial black holes that they carry inside their hulls. They're not just more advanced than us, Commander. They're playing by completely different rules. Sam pointed to another part of the display. And that's not even the worst part. Look at this. The screen showed intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The Velthari were just one of many powerful empires. The Zephyrian Confederacy controlled their territory with world ships, artificial planets that had been converted into mobile battle stations. Each world ship was home to billions of people and armed with weapons that could sterilize entire solar systems. The Zephyrians don't just conquer planets, Sam explained. They collect them. When they find a world they want, they move one of their world ships into orbit and demand surrender. If the planet refuses, they use gravity weapons to tear it apart. The survivors become slaves on the world ship. Lisa studied the reports. How many world ships do they have? Intelligence estimates at least 50, Sam replied. Each one is the size of Earth, with a population larger than our entire species. Helen brought up another file. Then there's the Hive. They don't use giant ships like the others. Instead, they have swarm fleets. Millions of smaller vessels that move together like schools of fish. Each individual ship is about the size of our destroyers, but there are so many of them that they can overwhelm any defense through sheer numbers. Display showed footage of a Hive attack on a rebel world. A sky filled with dark shapes as countless insect-like ships descended from space. They moved in perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship was going. The planet's defenders tried to fight back, but for every Hive ship they destroyed, 10 more took its place. The mathematical precision is terrifying, Helen continued. They don't waste a single movement or shot. Every action is calculated for maximum efficiency. It's like fighting a computer that can think faster than you can blink. Lisa rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. What about the others? The water creatures ... the Merdani. Sam pulled up another file. They're the diplomats of the galaxy, but don't let that fool you. Their ships can travel through both space and the ocean worlds they prefer. They have weapons that can boil entire seas or freeze them solid. When they want to make a point, they can literally drain the water from a planet's oceans and leave it as a desert. The reports kept coming. The Drakmori hegemony used gravitational weapons to hurl moons at their enemies. The Sylvan Federation could make stars go supernova on command. The Quantum Collective existed in multiple dimensions at once and could attack from directions that didn't technically exist. Every major power in the galaxy had weapons that could destroy worlds. Some could destroy entire solar systems. The smallest patrol ships from these empires were larger and more powerful than humanity's greatest battleships. How do the smaller species survive? Lisa asked. They don't, Sam replied bluntly. Not independently, anyway. They become clients of the major powers. They pay tribute, follow orders, and hope their patrons don't decide they're no longer useful. Helen nodded. The galaxy isn't a community of equals, Commander. It's a hierarchy, based on raw power. At the top are the ancient civilizations who have had millions of years to develop their technology. Below them are the established powers who have proven themselves through conquest. At the bottom are species like us, newcomers who exist only because the big powers haven't bothered to wipe us out yet. Lisa turned back to the display showing the destruction of Zarian 7. The crystal ships were now in orbit around the planet, their energy weapons carving deep scars into the surface. Cities that had stood for centuries were being erased in seconds. What happens to the survivors? She asked. Kelly looked up from her communications console. The lucky ones become slaves. The unlucky ones become examples for the next world that thinks about defying the Valthari. Lisa watched as one of the crystal ships moved closer to Zarian 7's surface. A beam of energy lanced down from the ship and struck what looked like a major city. When the beam shut off, there was nothing left but a crater of molten glass. "Commander," Sam said quietly, "there's something else you need to know. We've been monitoring communications from the other observer species, the ones that were granted the same status as humanity. And most of them don't exist anymore. In the past 50 years, 17 species were given observer status by the Galactic Council. Only 3 are still independent. The others were either conquered, enslaved, or simply eliminated when they became inconvenient." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. What happened to them? Helen pulled up another file. The Koreshi tried to develop weapons technology to defend themselves. The Hive decided they were becoming too dangerous and sterilized their home system. The Nelphi attempted to form an alliance with other small species. The Zephyrians absorbed their entire civilization into one of their world ships. The Vrex tried to hide from galactic politics entirely. The Drakmori threw their moon at their planet just to test a new gravitational slingshot. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Every species that tried to improve their position in the galactic hierarchy was crushed. Every species that tried to hide was hunted down. Every species that tried to form alliances was scattered to the winds. So what are our options? Lisa asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "We can submit completely and hope they let us survive as slaves," Sam said. "We can try to fight and be destroyed immediately. Or we can try to hide and be destroyed eventually." Lisa stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth continued to spin in blissful ignorance of how dangerous the galaxy really was. Humanity's leaders were probably still hoping for peaceful integration with galactic civilization. They had no idea that such a thing was impossible. The galaxy wasn't interested in humanity's hopes and dreams. It wasn't interested in their art, their culture, or their potential. The galaxy respected only one thing: the power to destroy worlds. And humanity had no such power. At least, that's what the galaxy believed. Lisa made a mental note to include all of this information. Colonel Ryan Webb walked through the tunnels deep beneath the surface of the moon. The walls were smooth metal, lit by strips of white light that stretched as far as he could see. The air was cool and recycled, carrying the faint smell of electronics and human sweat. Very few people knew these tunnels existed. Even fewer knew what was being built in the vast chambers beyond. Project Titan's Reach was humanity's greatest secret. It had begun 15 years ago, long before first contact with the galaxy. Back then, it was just a theory proposed by a group of scientists who believed that humanity would eventually encounter other intelligent species among the stars. They had asked a simple question: what if those species were hostile? The answer to that question was taking shape in the hidden construction bays scattered throughout the outer solar system. Dr. Nancy Foster met Colonel Webb at the entrance to the main observation deck. She was a small woman with gray hair and bright eyes that seemed to glow with excitement. She had been the chief engineer on the project since its beginning, and Webb had never seen her without a smile. "Colonel, you're going to love what we've accomplished this week," she said, leading him to a massive window that looked out into space. Webb stopped walking and stared. He had seen the construction many times, but it never failed to take his breath away. Floating in the darkness was what looked like a small moon. It was gray and cratered, scarred by millions of years of meteor impacts. But Webb knew better. This wasn't a moon at all. The USS Terra Nova, Dr. Foster said proudly. Humanity's first planet-class starship. Webb shook his head in wonder. The Terra Nova was 3,000 kilometers across, larger than Earth's moon. Its surface was designed to look like a natural celestial body, But hidden beneath that surface was technology that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. Captain Ben Taylor joined them at the window. He was a young man who had been transferred from the regular fleet to command the Terra Nova's tactical systems. His job was to turn this artificial world into the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created. "The camouflage is perfect," Captain Taylor said. "From the outside, it looks like any other dead rock floating in space. Our sensors can't tell the difference, and neither can the galaxy's most advanced detection systems." Dr. Foster activated a holographic display that showed a cross-section of the Terra Nova. Webb could see the layers of technology hidden inside the artificial moon. There were cities that could house millions of people, factories that could build entire fleets, and weapons that could crack planets in half. "The outer shell is genuine lunar rock," Dr. Foster explained. "We mined it from asteroids and dead moons throughout the solar system. Underneath that is a layer of advanced armor that can absorb the energy of a star. Below that are the living quarters, industrial centers, and command facilities." Webb studied the display. The Terra Nova wasn't just a ship. It was a complete civilization that could survive independently for centuries. It had its own air, water, food production, and manufacturing capabilities. It could build and repair its own fleet of smaller vessels. It was essentially a mobile planet that could go anywhere in the galaxy. "What about the weapons?" Webb asked. Captain Taylor's expression grew serious. "The Terra Nova carries weapon systems that we've never tested at full power. The main guns are gravitational manipulators that can create artificial black holes. The secondary weapons are mass drivers that can accelerate asteroids to 20% of light speed. The defensive systems include energy shields that can absorb and redirect the power of an entire fleet." Dr. Foster pulled up another display showing the Terra Nova's power systems. "The ship is powered by controlled antimatter reactions and zero-point energy extractors. We have enough power to run a small star system. The faster-than-light drives use principles we discovered by studying the fundamental structure of space-time itself." Webb had heard the technical explanations before, but he still didn't fully understand how any of it worked. What he did understand was that humanity's scientists had achieved something that should have been impossible. They had built a weapon that could stand against the galaxy's greatest powers. Lieutenant Katie Rogers appeared at Webb's elbow. She was the project's communications specialist, responsible for coordinating between the various construction sites. Her job was to make sure that no one outside the project knew what humanity was really building. "Colonel, we've received status reports from all the other construction sites," she said, handing him a data tablet. "The USS New Earth is 80% complete. The USS Forge is ready for its first test flight. The USS Liberty and the USS Freedom are entering their final construction phases." Webb looked at the numbers on the tablet. Humanity wasn't building just one planet-class ship. They were building an entire fleet of them. Each ship was designed for a specific purpose. The New Earth was an agricultural vessel that could feed billions of people. The Forge was a mobile industrial complex that could strip mine entire asteroid belts and convert the raw materials into whatever was needed. "How many ships will we have when the project is complete?" Webb asked. Dr. Foster smiled. 12 planet-class vessels, plus support fleets for each one. Each planet ship will carry its own escort of smaller vessels, cruisers, destroyers, fighters, and support craft. The total fleet will include over 10,000 individual ships. Webb tried to imagine what such a fleet would look like deployed. In battle, each planet ship would be like a mobile fortress, surrounded by clouds of smaller vessels. The combined firepower would be enough to level entire star systems. "The galaxy thinks we're still struggling with basic interplanetary travel," Captain Taylor said with a grin. "They have no idea we've been building beyond Pluto for the past 15 years. Dr. Foster activated another display showing the outer solar system. Webb could see construction sites scattered throughout the region, each one hidden behind advanced stealth technology. To any outside observer, the outer solar system looked empty and uninteresting. The reality was very different. The hegemony sends patrol ships through our system occasionally, Dr. Foster explained. They see what we want them to see, a primitive species slowly expanding to nearby planets. They have no idea that we've been building the most advanced fleet in galactic history right under their noses. Webb walked to another window that looked out at the Terra Nova surface. He could see tiny figures moving across the artificial landscape, construction workers putting the finishing touches on the ship's exterior. Each figure represented thousands of people working in shifts to complete humanity's secret weapon. How many people know about the project? Webb asked Lieutenant. Rogers consulted her tablet. Approximately 2 million people are directly involved in construction and support. Another million are working on related projects without knowing their true purpose. Everyone involved has signed security agreements that carry penalties of life imprisonment. Webb nodded. Keeping a secret this big was almost as impressive as the technology itself. 2 million people had worked for 15 years without revealing humanity's greatest secret to the galaxy. Dr. Foster led Webb to another section of the observation deck. Through the windows, he could see the Terra Nova's weapon systems being tested. Beams of energy lanced out from hidden emplacements, striking target asteroids millions of kilometers away. Each beam carried enough power to vaporize a mountain. We're running final tests on all systems, Dr. Foster said. The weapons, the shields, the faster-than-light drives, the life support systems. Everything is performing beyond our original specifications. Webb watched as a mass driver launched a projectile at incredible speed. The projectile was just a small piece of metal, but it was moving so fast that when it hit a target asteroid, the entire rock exploded in a burst of light and debris. What's the maximum range on these weapons? Webb asked. Captain Taylor pulled up a tactical display. The gravitational manipulators can create black holes at distances of up to 50,000 kilometers. The mass drivers have effectively unlimited range. We can hit targets in other star systems if we know their exact position. The energy weapons can reach targets anywhere within a solar system. Webb realized that each planet ship was essentially a mobile fortress that could dominate an entire star system. A single Terra Nova-class vessel could take on fleets that numbered in the thousands. The complete fleet could probably conquer entire galactic empires. When will the Terra Nova be ready for deployment? Webb asked. Dr. Foster checked her schedule. Final systems tests will be complete within 6 months. The crew was already aboard and conducting training exercises. We could deploy immediately if necessary, but we prefer to complete all testing first. Webb thought about the intelligence reports he'd been receiving from the outer monitoring stations. The galaxy was becoming more dangerous every day. Species were being conquered or destroyed with increasing frequency. The major powers were growing bolder in their attacks on smaller civilizations. Colonel, Lieutenant Rogers said quietly, there's something else you should know. We've been monitoring galactic communications, and there are rumors that several of the major powers are planning to divide up human space among themselves. Webb felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of rumors? The Velthari Empire is interested in RS. The attack on New Harmony came without warning. The human colony had been established on the planet just 3 years earlier, home to 2 million farmers, engineers, and their families. It was a peaceful world, far from the major shipping lanes. And galactic politics. The colonists grew food, raised children, and dreamed of a future among the stars. Admiral Kexler of the Zephyrian Third Fleet had chosen New Harmony specifically because it was defenseless. The attack wasn't meant to gain territory or resources. It was meant to send a message to humanity and any other species that might be watching. The message was simple: know your place. Lieutenant Commander Paul Johnson sat in the communications center of Titan Base, deep beneath the surface of the moon. His job was to monitor all human colonies and report any threats to Earth Command. When the first distress signals came from New Harmony, he thought it was a technical malfunction. No one would attack such a peaceful world. The second wave of signals made it clear that this was no malfunction. "Sir, we're receiving multiple emergency transmissions from New Harmony," reported communications specialist Janet Hill. Her voice was steady, but Paul could see the fear in her eyes. "The colonists are reporting massive ships in orbit. They're firing on the cities." Paul activated the main display screen. The image that appeared made his blood run cold. 17 Zephyrian warships hung in space above New Harmony like dark clouds. Each ship was over 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that glowed with deadly energy. They looked like floating cities of death, and they were systematically destroying everything on the planet below. "Get me Colonel Webb," Paul ordered. Priority 1 communication. The connection to Colonel Webb took only seconds to establish. Webb's face appeared on the screen, his expression grim. He was standing in the command center of the Titan's Reach project, surrounded by displays showing the positions of humanities. "Secret fleet. Colonel, the Zephyrians are attacking New Harmony," Paul reported. "Initial estimates suggest 2 million civilian casualties. They're not even trying to take prisoners. They're just destroying everything." Webb's jaw tightened. "Are you getting visual confirmation?" Paul nodded toward the main screen. "The long-range sensors are picking up everything. It's a massacre, sir." The display showed the Zephyrian ships firing beam after beam of energy at the planet's surface. Where the beams struck, cities disappeared in flashes of light. Forests burned, oceans boiled. The colonists had no defenses against weapons that could vaporize entire continents. "Sir," Janet said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian flagship. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." Webb's expression grew even more serious. "Put it through." The screen flickered, and Admiral Kexter's face appeared. He was a typical Zephyrian, tall, pale, with eyes that seemed to see right through you. When he spoke, his voice was calm and precise, as if he were discussing the weather. "People of Earth," Admiral Kexter began. "I am Admiral Kexter of the Zephyrian Third Fleet. Today, we have demonstrated the consequences of overreach. Your colony on New Harmony has been destroyed as a lesson to your species and others who might forget their place in the galactic order." Paul felt sick as he watched the Admiral's emotionless face. Behind him, the destruction of New Harmony continued. Cities that had taken years to build were being erased in seconds. "Your species was granted observer status by the Galactic Council," Admiral Kexter continued. "This means you may watch and learn, nothing more. Your expansion beyond your home system violates the terms of that status. New Harmony was established without permission from the galactic authorities. This attack serves as a correction to your behavior." Paul clenched his fists as he watched the transmission. The Admiral spoke as if destroying 2 million innocent people was a minor administrative action. Future violations will result in similar consequences. Admiral Kexter said, "Your species will retreat to your home system and remain there until the Galactic Council decides what to do with you. Any attempt to establish new colonies or expand your territory will result in the complete destruction of your civilization." The transmission ended. The screen returned to showing the devastation on New Harmony. The planet that had been green and beautiful just hours ago was now a burning wasteland. The Zephyrian ships were moving away, their work complete. "Colonel." Webb's face appeared on the communication screen again. Paul could see something dangerous in the colonel's eyes. a cold fury that promised retribution. How many survivors? Webb asked. Paul checked the incoming reports. Early estimates suggest less than 50,000. They managed to evacuate some people to underground shelters before the main attack began. But the surface is uninhabitable. The atmospheric processors have been destroyed. The cities are gone. Webb was quiet for a long moment, staring at the images of destruction. Then he turned to someone off-screen. Activate all vessels. Full deployment. It's time. Paul felt his heart skip a beat. Sir, are you authorizing the revelation of the fleet? The galaxy wants to play by the rules of power, Webb replied. Let's show them what real power looks like. Send the activation codes to all planet-class vessels. Humanity is done hiding. Across the solar system and beyond, signals traveled at the speed of light to ships that had been waiting in the darkness for this moment. The USS Terra Nova received its orders while disguised as a dead moon in the asteroid belt. The USS knew. Earth powered up its systems while hiding behind Jupiter's largest moon. The USS Forge activated its weapons while floating in the space between solar systems. Captain Amy Patterson commanded the USS Liberty from the ship's bridge deep inside the artificial planet. She had been waiting for this day for 3 years. Ever since she had been assigned to command one of humanity's greatest secrets. Around her, 3 million crew members prepared for humanity's debut on the galactic stage. All stations, this is your captain, Amy announced over the ship's communication system. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not be dismissed, will not be threatened, and will not be destroyed. Prepare for faster-than-light jump to New Harmony. Dr. Claire Thompson monitored the jump calculations from the Terra Nova's command center. She had helped design the faster-than-light drives that powered these massive ships. The technology was so advanced that even she sometimes couldn't believe it was real. All fleet elements report ready for jump, Dr. Thompson announced. We're about to introduce ourselves to the Zephyrian Third Fleet in a way they'll never forget. The jump to New Harmony would take 6 hours. During that time, the Zephyrian fleet would be celebrating their easy victory over a defenseless human colony. They would be sending reports back to their government about how quickly they had dealt with humanity's expansion. They would be laughing about how primitive and weak the human species was. In 6 hours, the laughter would stop. Back on the moon, Colonel Webb stood in the command center, watching displays that showed the positions of humanity's secret fleet. 12 planet-class vessels and their escort fleets were moving toward New Harmony. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled, and the galaxy had no idea it existed. Sir, Lieutenant Katie Rogers said, we're receiving transmissions from the other major powers. They're all congratulating the Zephyrians on their swift action against humanity. The Velthari are requesting permission to claim our sun for their own use. The Hive wants to establish breeding colonies in our outer planets. Webb's expression grew even colder. They're already dividing us up among themselves. They think we're finished. What are your orders for Earth Defense Command? Paul asked. Webb considered the question. Earth's regular military forces were impressive by human standards, but they were nothing compared to the secret fleet. A planet's defenses included orbital weapons platforms, fighter squadrons, and defensive satellites. Against galactic-level threats, they were basically useless. Tell Earth Command to maintain normal operations, Webb decided. The galaxy expects us to panic and beg for mercy. Let's not disappoint them. When our fleet reveals itself at New Harmony, the shock will be much greater if Earth appears helpless. Dr. Thompson looked up from her calculations. Colonel, I should warn you about what we're about to do. When the Terra Nova drops out of faster-than-light travel, every sensor in the galaxy is going to detect the gravity wave. Ships this size create distortions in space-time that can be felt across multiple star systems. Webb nodded. Good. I want every species in the galaxy to know that something big just happened. I want them to wonder what could create gravity waves that powerful. Lieutenant Rogers pulled up intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Sir, we're already detecting increased chatter on galactic communication networks. Word of the New Harmony attack is spreading. Most species are expressing support for the Zephyrian action. They're calling it a necessary lesson for an upstart species. Webb read through some of the intercepted messages. The galaxy's reaction was exactly what he had expected. They saw the destruction of New Harmony as justice served against a species that had forgotten its place. They approved of the slaughter of 2 million innocent people because it reinforced the galactic hierarchy. How much longer until our fleet reaches New Harmony? Webb asked. Dr. Thompson checked her displays. 4 hours and 37 m. Admiral Kexter stood on the bridge of the ZCS Dominator, looking down at the burning remains of New Harmony. The planet's surface was covered with scars from his fleet's weapons. Cities had been reduced to glass craters. Forests were ash. The oceans boiled with radioactive steam. It had been a perfect demonstration of Zephyrian power. The human colony had been destroyed in less than 4 hours, and the survivors were already sending desperate messages to Earth begging for help. Soon, those messages would reach the Galactic Council, and every species in the galaxy would know. What happened to those who overstepped their bounds? Admiral, his tactical officer reported, we have completed our damage assessment. The colony has been completely neutralized. No significant infrastructure remains intact. Kexter nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. Prepare a full report for Fleet Command. Make sure to include detailed recordings of the destruction. The High Council will want to see proof of our efficiency. The bridge crew worked quietly around him, cataloging the destruction they had caused. This was routine work for the Zephyrian military. They had destroyed dozens of worlds over the centuries, each one a lesson to the galaxy about the cost of defying their rule. Sir, the communications officer said, we're receiving congratulations from the other major powers. The Velthari are particularly pleased with our action. They're requesting permission to begin harvesting operations in the human home system. Kexter smiled. The humans had made things easy by establishing that illegal colony. Now the galaxy's major powers could divide up human space without any political complications. The Velthari could have their star, the Hive could have their breeding worlds, and the Zephyrians could convert Earth into another world ship. Tell the Velthari that we'll consider their request after we've completed our evaluation of human resources. Kexter replied, no point in rushing these things. The Admiral was examining reports from the planetary surface when his tactical officer made a sound of confusion. Sir, I'm detecting some kind of gravitational anomaly at the edge of the system. Kexter frowned. What kind of anomaly? I'm not sure, sir. It's like something very massive just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. But the gravity signature is enormous. Whatever it is, it's bigger than anything in our databases. Kexter moved to tactical display. The screen showed the New Harmony system with his fleet in orbit around the devastated planet. At the very edge of the system, barely within sensor range, was a contact that made no sense. Show me the mass. Readings, he ordered. The tactical officer's hands moved across his control panel. Numbers appeared on the screen that made Kexter's breath catch in his throat. Sir, the contact mass is approximately 7.3 times 10 to the 22nd kilograms. That's larger than most moons. Kexter stared at the display. That has to be a sensor error. Run a full diagnostic. The tactical officer worked frantically at his controls. Sir, diagnostics show all systems functioning normally. The readings are accurate. Something the size of a small moon just appeared at the edge of our sensor range. Before Kexter could respond, more gravity. Waves washed over the fleet. then more. The tactical display began showing contact after contact appearing throughout the system. Each one registered as having the mass of a planetary body. How many contacts? Kexter demanded. 12 primary contacts, sir. Each one approximately the size of Earth's moon. And, sir, there are smaller contacts appearing around each primary. Hundreds of them. Kexter felt cold fear creeping up his spine. Are they natural phenomena? Asteroids? Comets? The tactical officer's voice was getting higher with panic. No, sir. These contacts are under power. They're moving in formation. And ... sir. They're heading this way. The main display screen flickered to life, showing a view of space near the edge of the system. What Kexter saw there made him understand that everything he thought he knew about the galaxy was wrong. Moon was moving through space under its own power. Its surface was gray and cratered like any natural satellite, but it was surrounded by a cloud of smaller ships that moved with obvious intelligence and purpose. As Kexter watched, more moons appeared from faster-than-light travel, each one accompanied by its own fleet of escort vessels. Communications. Get me a channel to Fleet Command immediately, Kexter ordered. Priority 1 emergency transmission. Sir, I'm trying, but there's some kind of interference. These ships, they're jamming our communications across multiple frequencies. Kexter watched in growing horror as the impossible fleet moved deeper into the system. 12 artificial moons, each one larger than his flagship, accompanied by what looked like thousands of smaller vessels. The formation moved with a precision that spoke of advanced coordination and overwhelming technological superiority. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead contact, the communications officer reported. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Kexter said, though his voice came out as barely a whisper. The main screen to show a human face. It was a woman with short brown hair and calm brown eyes. She wore a uniform that Kexter didn't recognize, and behind her was what looked like a command center that stretched farther than his eyes could see. Zephyrian Third Fleet, the woman said. This is Captain Sarah Williams of the United Earth. Defense Force, you will cease your attack on human civilians immediately and withdraw from this system. Kexter found his voice. I am Admiral Kexter of the Zephyrian Confederacy. Your species has no authority in this region of space. You will identify your vessels and explain how you obtained ships of this size. Captain Williams' expression didn't change. Admiral, you have 30 minutes to withdraw your fleet from this system. After that time, we will consider your continued presence in active war against humanity. Kexter almost laughed. Captain, you seem to misunderstand this situation. I command 17 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. Your species was granted observer status precisely because you lacked the military capability to threaten established powers. Admiral, Captain Williams replied calmly, you destroyed a colony containing 2 million innocent people. You did this to send a message about human weakness. Allow me to send a message about human strength. The transmission ended. Kexter stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his tactical officer. Show me detailed scans of those ships. I want to know what we're dealing with. The tactical display showed a close-up view of the nearest human vessel. What Kexter saw there made his blood turn to ice. The ship's surface was covered with weapon emplacements that dwarfed anything in the Zephyrian arsenal. Energy readings showed power levels that should have been impossible for any mobile platform. Sir, the tactical officer said quietly, each of those ships is carrying more firepower than our entire fleet. The energy signatures suggest they have weapons that could crack planets. Kexter looked at the tactical display showing his 17 ships surrounded by 12 moon-sized vessels and thousands of escorts. For the first time in his career, He was facing an enemy that was clearly superior in every way that mattered. "Open a channel to the human flagship," he ordered. Captain Williams appeared on the screen again. Behind her, Kexter could see other humans working at control stations that looked more advanced than anything in Zephyrian technology. "Captain Williams," Kexter began, "perhaps we can discuss this situation. The Galactic Council authorized our action against the illegal human colony. We were simply enforcing galactic law." Captain Williams leaned forward slightly. "Admiral, you have 23 minutes remaining. I suggest you use that time to begin your withdrawal." Kexter felt desperation rising in his chest. "Captain, surely we can reach some kind of agreement. The Zephyrian Confederacy has been a major power in this galaxy for thousands of years. We have resources, territory, technology that could benefit your species." "Admiral," Captain Williams said, "you have 22 minutes and 40 seconds. After that, I will demonstrate why attacking human civilians was a mistake." The transmission ended again. Kexter looked around his bridge at officers who were staring at their displays with expressions of shock and fear. None of them had ever faced a situation like this. The Zephyrian military was accustomed to being the strongest force in any engagement. "Sir," the communications officer said, "I'm detecting transmissions from the human fleet. They're communicating with each other using faster-than-light communication systems. The technology appears to be more advanced than anything in our databases." Kexter made a decision that went against every instinct he had developed over decades of military service. "All ships, prepare for immediate withdrawal. Set course for the edge of the system." "Sir?" his tactical officer asked in surprise. "You?" "Heard the order. We're leaving. Now." As the Zephyrian fleet began to move away from New Harmony, Kexter sent an emergency transmission to Fleet Command. The message was simple. Humanity was not what they appeared to be. The species that the galaxy had dismissed as primitive had just revealed capabilities that surpassed anything the major powers possessed. But even as his fleet retreated, Kexter knew it was too late. The galaxy had seen humanity as weak, and that perception had led to this moment. The destruction of New Harmony had been intended.